College football nerds here talking Auburn and Penn State. Penn State giving Auburn the return trip from last year. These home and homes are a lot of fun. I got Josh with me. We're going to get nerdy. Going to remind y'all homework ahead of time. Your score prediction. Going to also remind you live show Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central, 10 Eastern. We're going to talk ball. We're going to talk about this game, of course. And this one should be wrapped. Some of these fun games like Kentucky, Florida, Josh, were already going, or still going when we were talking. We're going to do a little different format on this one. We're just going to have a conversation. A lot of times we have a lot of question and point, counterpoint. We're just going to talk ball a little bit with y'all, and you let us know what you think about it. Josh, for me, I've got some concerns with Auburn at quarterback, and I think it really boils down to that. Because I think that both these teams have decent defenses, and one of them is probably going to get to be a little more consistent because they've got a quarterback that is consistent that neither one of us love, but is probably going to eke out enough points to maybe get a win. That's where I start, at least.
Yeah, I think these are two teams, right, that have quarterbacks that they wish weren't starting in favor of the backups. For Auburn, it's Ashford, and for Penn State, it's Aller. And I think both of them see different things from those QBs. Aller's definitely his arm, and Ashford's definitely his legs. Allard only didn't throw a whole lot last week, which was interesting to me. And then Ashford only threw 3 passes against San Jose State, which was by necessity. And that kind of gets into the interesting part, which is that I don't know that any of these guys have looked particularly impressive against competition to date. Offensively, I think defensively they've been fine, right? But I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of curious on your opinion on it. Like, why aren't they doing better offensively? Do you think it's the quarterback issue? I know you like Aller, right?
I like Aller a lot. I think Aller would start for a lot of teams. I think that there's some incumbent appreciation for Clifford, and that's why he's getting the start. And look, I know I hate the whole backup quarterback is the most popular guy on the team thing, but I said it on the live show the other day or Saturday last night that I think that there's a hard ceiling with Clifford on this team, and there's a higher floor for Penn State with Clifford. Like, you're not going to go 6-6, I don't think, with Clifford, but you're also not going to go 11-1 in my opinion. I think you could win 10 or 11 games with Aller. Maybe not that many because the supporting cast isn't there like it's been in the past. But he's just got a different feel for the game, a different vision, and a different arm. But Josh, to me, looking at both of these teams, like Auburn struggling with a not good San Jose State team, I think the fact that Penn State went on the road and beat Purdue is enough to tell me that maybe 3 points is right, because that's what Penn State's given, but I think that that's enough to give me a little more confidence in Penn State than Auburn.
Hey, it's tough. I mean, the problem again is we're so early in the season that competition is sort of isolated, right? The only other game Purdue played was a nobody themselves. So evaluating any of these teams is really difficult. And I'll say with the quarterback conversation, I do want to point out that we never know how much of the playbook these guys know. And I think we talked about this in a live show, that anytime you have somebody like Aller that's supposed to be playing, I always wonder if they've got maybe 10 to 15 plays that they can actually execute. And sometimes we see guys like Trevor Lawrence come in and be really effective, but they talk a lot of times about developmentally where all these guys are. There's a reason some of them are rated the way they are. And it's not just intangibles or tangibles. Sometimes it's just sheer development, development level. Some of these guys have just been prepared better. There's a reason Arch Manning is rated the way he is. And in large part, it's because he's been taught how to play quarterback at a level that most guys haven't at his age. And so the thought is that he can come in a lot faster. And I don't know where Ashford is, and I don't know where Aller is, and I don't know how many packages they can run with him. And for about one game, it'd look good. But after that, once you see tape on it, then it's going to break down because people are going to know the 10 plays he can run well. And you can't teach somebody an offense mid-season. You spend 2 or 3 days installing for the particular week of what you're playing, and then otherwise you've got 9 months out of the year that you really spend learning what the playbook is. That's why things blow up so bad when you lose a quarterback. So I think both these teams, the point being, I think they're kind of set on who they are. I think Auburn is going to be a team that runs, maybe TJ Finley. I don't know if Calzada is just not as good as they were hoping, or if it is still a lingering injury issue. Maybe both. But it seems like he's not even a factor. So where do you go? I think they both have decent floors due to their defense. I think they have some hard stops in their ceiling, but I do agree with you. At the end of the day, I do lean Penn State more than Auburn in a lot of ways. I feel like Penn State has more answers to more questions than Auburn does, because I have a lot of questions about Auburn's roster right now, if I'm being completely honest.
The one thing I will say about Auburn, though, in this is you can have a quarterback admittedly, I think Auburn's quarterback situation is bad. Like I said on Twitter in August, if TJ Finley is the starter coming out of camp, that's a terrible sign for Auburn. And I love my Auburn friends. I'm not trying to be, doomsday or anything, but they got to be better at quarterback than TJ Finley if they're going to win some games given their just brutal schedule. On the flip side, though, I will say this, and we saw this last year when Alabama came to town. If you're having issues offensively, or if you're having issues at quarterback, like let's say that Clifford is 30, 40, 50, 100% better than what Auburn's got at quarterback, it's still, there is this break point that you hit where you start scoring points. But if you're under that threshold against a good defense, which Auburn has, that might be an equalizer to really neutralize the gap between Clifford and Finley / Ashford, in that, he might be way better, but that's still not good enough to actually score points. And then if this game is low scoring enough, then we get into variability. Is there a fumble that gets run back for a touchdown? Is there a special team score that really turns this game on its ear? Also add into the fact that you've got a pretty raucous home crowd. Jordan-Hare's not that big. It's it's not 120,000 people. It's not Beaver Stadium, which I think is like 104 or something like that. But it gets loud. It's one of the louder stadiums in the SEC, so that could have a factor too. So could maybe the heat. I don't know. But Josh, is that possible that Clifford could be a lot better than what Auburn's got at quarterback, but because Auburn's got a good defense, and being a lot better doesn't mean you're good, is enough to be a great neutralizer?
In my opinion, when they had Bo Nix and Clifford, it was sort of like the Spider-Man meme of those guys pointing at each other. I feel like, I feel like it's the same thing. And I know you said something that you've heard before, right? That there's always this tough relationship with a senior quarterback in the position Clifford's in, where it's like, yeah, we like you, but there's a reason you didn't go pro. Like, we like you because you've been here, but we don't like you for the same reasons why you're still here. And that's kind of the position why they're in the position they're in now. And as much as Auburn fans may not have loved Bo Nix, I'm going to be honest, I think TJ Finley is not as good as Bo Nix. And those were pretty evenly matched teams last year, which was kind of fun. We took so much hate when we did that preview last year because everybody at the time thought Penn State was awesome and a top 10 team, and Auburn had throttled Akron, and we kept saying, look, Akron's not a good football team, and we looked at the roster, and I didn't like the receivers at Auburn. I didn't have a lot of faith in Penn State. We weren't wrong. I mean, I wasn't saying it to be haters. It's just I saw what I saw, and we try to call it like we see it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm always going to try to tell you what I see. And I didn't see a team that was particularly good on either one of those sides. And I think you have to be realistic if you're Auburn and accept that Bo Nix is the reason you had something of a semblance of a solid season, because you're not beating Ole Miss without him. Or is it Ole Miss or Arkansas they beat, right? All of a sudden, I'm sort of completely wondering if I'm forgetting everything. But Bo Nix was, well, I guess that's Bo Nix syndrome, right? You sort of get on the field and forget everything that's going on. At his highs, playing sandlot football, he could make stuff work the same way Clifford does. And to me, that's kind of why I think Penn State's got a little bit of an edge, because I think Clifford can do some things at times. He can make any throw. I mean, he can miss any throw, but he can make any throw. And it feels like this is going to be a low-scoring game with variability at play. I feel like he's probably more likely to make positive than negative plays. He might make some negative plays that could lose him the game, but probably more likely to win it for him than lose it on balance. And so it does sort of shift their way. But man, looking at these offensive rosters, I have a hard time. Bigsby is kind of the one guy that I'd point to and say, like, that's a dude. Bigsby's a dude. He's going to be an NFL tailback. I think he's going to be an NFL starter, honestly. And he's kind of the one guy. Washington is a good player for Penn State. He's not Dotson. And I don't know who else is there. So you just kind of struggle to see where the points are going to come from, because these are good defenses, which we probably should be more positive about, but they are good defenses.
What is it? But what is the thought here? Like, I don't love that Penn State gave up 31 points to Purdue. I know it was on the road, and I know, like, statistically, Aiden O'Connell wasn't great. Like, I think it was like 6-something yards per attempt.
Yeah, he threw 60 passes.
Yeah, but I feel like there's some issues there defensively, which may give Auburn some opportunities. I think this is going to be, Josh, this is going to be, in my opinion, a low-scoring game, a field position struggle. Last year was kind of like that, Auburn and Penn State. There was a little more scoring, but I'm going to go ahead and give a score on this, because I can't think through it too much more. I think that Clifford is the X factor here, in that he's experienced and he's not a bad quarterback. He's average. He's an average quarterback that can move a little bit, that's seen a lot. He got a lot of credit for that final drive, but I think that there was a lot of outlet passes. The long pass on the left sideline was a pretty wide open pass where the guy gave 12 yards and then missed the tackle. Can't do that. I think Penn State could end up being a solid team this year. I'm not sure that Auburn can. So Penn State's got to get this win if they want to be that. Give me Penn State 20, Auburn 17.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That's right on the spread.
Well, it is what it is. I'll go Penn State 24-20. Same answer as you. We talk about this a lot, right? There's games where I feel like the spread is set wrong, which usually are trap games, right? Where everybody is so sure that one team's going to win and they don't. Now, I said last week I thought that game was App State, because they were getting 18 points. It didn't make any sense to me. But that ended up kind of swinging the other way. I thought, well, like if they're going to give 18 points to App State, surely they have some reason to think A&M has got a huge advantage, and they ended up winning the game. But it's 24-20 is my score. I'm the same boat. I think this is the line at 3 points is right. And this game is a game that at best is 60-40, probably 55-45 on who's going to win it. You could play this game. I'd be surprised if you come out of it not thinking you can play this game 10 times. And neither side's going to win more than 6. It's interesting to me that the over-under, I think, is currently 48. Says a lot, right? The Vegas is saying 24-24 is your average game, and that's pretty low. And we say all the time, anytime you're less than 25 points on each side, variability comes hugely into play. One punt return, one fumble, one pick six. Particularly, a pick six in the red zone is already the most indicative thing in football for who's going to win a game. And maybe this is sort of a fun thing for people that have bothered to stay this far. If you think about it, right? If I'm on the 15-yard line and I throw a pick six, so I would have gotten at least a field goal, is the thought. Now the other team has scored a touchdown, so I go from having a 1-score lead to a 1-score deficit. So now when I get the ball back, I have to score, which balances it back. So maybe I go from being up a touchdown to now, or whatever. I balance it out. I score. Now I've scored. They scored. We're even. Now I have to stop them, get the ball back again, and score again to go up 1 score. So it's my possession, stopping their possession, my possession, to get back to where I was. 4 possessions essentially to get back to the point where you were previously. And that's why, like Ole Miss had their backup quarterback throw a pick six in that game. And I said at the time, because it was like midway through the third quarter, it was devastating, because you start doing the math in your head of possessions. I'm like, there's not that many in the game. It's going to take them, and it did take them into the fourth quarter for them to even balance that out. And I think, well, maybe in the start of the fourth quarter, there's just not enough time. So something like that will easily win the game, I think, for either side, is the point. And with it being this low scoring, those points will be at a premium, so it's even more true. So I'm saying Penn State 24-20, but this is a game that could go either way. And I think the winner of this game will have a chance at a solid season. And quite frankly, I think the loser of this game probably going to be relegated somewhat to the basement and could have a very, very rough year.
And look, I think that these fan bases know it. I also think there's a chance that the winner of this game gets oversold a little bit nationally, especially if Auburn wins this game and then they've got a really bad Missouri team right after that. They're 4-0. They're going to be ranked going into LSU. But I also think that like Auburn is a quarterback away from being a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. And I just wonder if Calzada is maybe working through some injury stuff, and if he can come back or show up, there's still an opportunity there. And I maintain that Penn State, although they don't have a great supporting cast, they might go 7-5 with Aller at quarterback, but they ain't going 11-1 with Clifford, and they could go 10-2 with Aller. I think they could. All right, that's it for us on Auburn and Penn State. Give us your score prediction in the comments. Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great week, and God bless.